R.I.P. Omegle, we knew you well. Omegle. Omegle was just decommissioned last week because presumably the liability just became too much to bear. Anonymous video chatting with strangers is a very difficult thing to manage in today's world. But what if the site looked a little different? Is there any way we could have insulated Omegle from the legal liability through the user interface somehow? We're going to try and redesign Omegle today to make it feel more modern, and then also try to make it easier to manage bad behavior on Omegle. As you can see, here is the old UI, which we can sadly no longer see. You've got a huge text chat that takes up the majority of the space, a bunch of random different colors of blues scattered all over the place, and then the video to the left. Nothing to write home about. I've made a little cheeky style guide based on these colors here, and we're going to upgrade them to Jost, a font that's really friendly looking, but still very clean and performant. Let's get in there and redesign it and see what we come up with. One of the core problems with the old Omegle UI was that there was just no navigation. I mean, why would you need navigation? And the only reason I can think that you would need that is if you wanted to look at your session history. And that might be useful for kind of seeing who you've talked to in the past, generally speaking, and how long you were talking. Now, to preserve the anonymity of Omegle, we wouldn't use names or anything, but we could use some IP sniffing to determine the general location of that person so that two things would happen. One, you would have a record of all the people that you've talked to, and two, you can see which sessions you've been a part of and then report people in context. Instead of having to report them while you're actively talking with them, having a history view like this enables you to kind of retroactively correct back behavior. The other big change that we're making to this interface is reducing the impact of the chat. And the existing UI, the chat took up almost all the screen with the video only taking up a small portion of it. But you don't need that much space to showcase messages. In fact, it's better if you have a constrained width so that when users are reading the messages, they're not craning their neck back and forth quite a long ways. So we're bumping the chat over to the side here, which gives us a whole bunch more space in the middle to display the video feeds. Now here I'm realizing that the chat label on the right is a little bit redundant, right? It's kind of implied that it is the chat by the nature that that's where you type text chat messages. So instead we're moving the label to the entire room, which gives us a nice way to break up the left and the right UI, and then we're giving users a quick and easy way to get into the next room if for some reason they decide they no longer want to talk with the person they're currently chatting with. And then of course we're also highlighting that you can press spacebar so that users don't need to think or precisely click on any sort of control. If they want to get out of a room, all they have to do is smash spacebar. Another safeguard that we're putting in place is giving users a discrete and simple way to control whether or not they're sharing audio or video. Presumably users in this new UI would just start with text chat, and then if they want to opt in to sharing their voice and the camera feed, they can do so. And particularly, we're making a very specific change with seeing your partner's video. Just because you enabled your video doesn't mean the other person wants to see it, right? So I'm trying to implement something here where we kind of blur out the camera feed to kind of imply that it's being shown, but don't show it in full detail unless both partners have consented to that. So it kind of adds an extra layer of protection there in case some crazy person is on there sharing God knows what. And then finally, we're adding a language picker here to make the site more accessible to folks that are based in different countries. If you are in, say, the UK and someone else is in Australia, it would translate for you from Australian to a language that someone in the UK can understand. Okay, there we go. Now we have an Omegle that is both much more modern and I think places a lot more care on privacy than they did previously. Just showcasing everyone's IP address and then IP sniffing a location kind of emboldens the idea that you're not 100% anonymous, and that users can report you if they experience you misbehaving somehow. You have to manually enable video now, so by default you don't just get shown another person's face. You have to have a conversation with them first, or you can have a conversation with them first, and then allow the video to enable so that you can then have that conversation. Additionally, there's many different ways to get out of the room. You can just disable the video, or of course you can just leave the room using either of these controls here at any time. So let me know what you think. Would this have saved Omegle from their untimely downfall? Does this feel like an easier to use Omegle, or is it just more of the same? Hope this was useful for you folks. Have a great one. See you next time.